Bullies forced the little alien girl to eat from the ground until a human stepped in. The plaza in Narrated held its usual afternoon order. Students crossed the open space in straight lines. The stone tiles were smooth, pale gray, kept so clean that even a leaf didn't stay on them for more than a minute before an auto sweeper collected it. Air vents along the plaza walls released a constant flow of filtered oxygen with a faint sterile scent. Nothing looked out of place. Nothing was allowed to. On the ground near a shaded corner, a small alien girl knelt in an awkward crouch. Her skin was a gentle green tone, almost the shade of young leaves. Her long white hair fell over her cheeks in tangled strands, too uneven for any parent to have trimmed. Her school wrap, a thin gray-blue fabric issued by the lower dorms, hung crooked on her left shoulder, exposing more skin than it should. Scattered food lay on the floor around her. Avon grain chips crushed flat, spice curls broken in half, a small fruit pack leaking orange pulp that already dried on the stone. 5 children stood around her. Their uniforms were perfect, pressed sleeves, polished boots, prefabricated badge plates that gleamed. Their posture showed confidence. Their glances carried no guilt. One boy nudged her elbow with his shoe. "Eat it. That's what you get." A taller girl folded her arms, her braids falling over one shoulder. "Go on. You don't have parents to stop us. Everyone knows you're unassigned." Naya's fingers trembled over the crushed food. Fear tightened her breath. She lowered her head more, as if shrinking might keep the others from noticing her shaking. Her stomach hurt, not only from hunger, but from the humiliation burning in her chest. She waited for an adult voice to interrupt, but the teachers on duty watched from a distance and pretended they didn't see anything. No one liked getting involved with dorm kids. Too many forms. Too much scrutiny. A heavy step hit the ground near the plaza's edge. Doyle had come off shift 10 minutes early. His job as a loadmaster and structural rigger kept him on high platforms most days, adjusting lift points and checking support lines above the gas giant. He still wore his black harness, unbuckled but hanging at his sides. His compression shirt was rolled to his elbows, showing forearms marked by faint strap lines. His boots carried dust from the maintenance rails. He planned to grab a quick lunch before heading home, but the stalled movement in the center of the plaza made him slow down. He saw the half circle of children. He saw the girl on the floor, her hands hovering above dirty food like she expected someone to force her face down. A tight pressure filled his chest. He recognized the posture, someone bracing for punishment. He walked closer. His thoughts sharpened quickly. She's alone. She's scared. And they're not stopping. Anger tightened in him. His shoulders squared without him noticing. The boy who had nudged the girl looked up first and saw Doyle closing in. He stiffened. The rest followed his gaze and stepped back. Doyle reached the group, stopped beside them, and didn't raise his voice. "Pick her up," he said to the boy who'd kicked her food. The boy swallowed but didn't move. Doyle's patience ended. He reached forward, grabbed the back of the boy's uniform collar, and lifted him a few inches off the ground. The boy's feet left the tile, his breath catching. Doyle set him aside with the same motion he used to move a tool case. Firm, controlled, final. The circle broke instantly. Naya flinched, expecting a blow. Her body curled tighter. She didn't understand why he stopped the others. That fear stayed in her eyes when she looked up. Doyle crouched in front of her. The harness creaked softly. "It's okay," he said. His voice stayed low and even. "Look at me." She hesitated, then lifted her gaze. "You don't eat off the floor," he said. "Not here, not anywhere." Her voice barely came out. "They said I have to." "You don't." He placed a folded nutrition token in her palm. "You use this instead." Warmth spread through her hand from the token. She stared at it like it was something she wasn't sure she deserved. Doyle shrugged off his work jacket. The dark fabric still held the heat of his body and the faint smell of Ferland seed coffee from his morning break. He draped it gently over her shoulders. The jacket almost swallowed her, but her breathing steadied under the weight. He stood and looked at the other kids until their eyes dropped. "Leave. Now." They scattered fast, their footsteps echoing. Naya clutched the jacket with both hands, confused but relieved. Her heart still pounded hard. She stayed close to the wall, as if afraid someone might drag her back into the open. "Come with me," Doyle said. "You need real food." She nodded faintly. Her legs wobbled, but carried her forward. They walked through the plaza together, passing clean benches, quiet fountains, and groups of kids who pretended not to stare. Naya moved one step behind Doyle, unsure if she was allowed to walk beside someone like him. When they reached the food tier, the warm air carried the smell of grilled strips, baked bread, and hot broth. Doyle ordered zyronut bread and a bowl of spiced meat stew. The vendor hesitated at the sight of Naya, but served the meal when Doyle placed his credits without blinking. They sat at the counter. Naya ate slowly, her fingers small against the warm bread. She took cautious bites, as if worried someone might yank the bowl away. "How long since a proper meal?" Doyle asked. She lifted one shoulder. "Not sure. Dorm staff feed you?" "They try, but there's a lot of us." "Anyone check on you?" he asked. Her answer was quiet. "Not really." He studied her posture, curved in, defensive. The bruise on her left arm, the way she flinched when someone laughed across the room, even though the laughter wasn't about her. His jaw tightened again. She's been dealing with this alone. When they finished, Doyle walked her back to the dorm level. The hall outside the entrance smelled faintly of metal polish and recycled air. Kids passed by quickly, trying not to get involved. Naya stopped at the doorway. "Why did you help me?" Doyle answered honestly. "Because someone should have." He paused, then added, "I'll check on you tomorrow." Her breath caught. "You will?" "Yeah." She clutched the jacket tighter. "Okay." He stepped back and watched her slip inside quietly. The door closed behind her with a soft click. Doyle lingered a moment, tension still in his chest. He hadn't planned any of this. He'd intended to grab food, go home, and rest before his next maintenance rotation. Instead, something in him shifted when he saw the girl on the floor. "I can't let that happen again," he thought. He turned toward the lift and rode up to the residential ring. The change from lower-tier noise to quiet corridors felt sharper today. His apartment light activated as the door slid open. Mira stood at the kitchen slab, slicing root vegetables for dinner. Her house tunic hung loose on one shoulder, her feet bare on the stone floor. She looked up at the sound of the door. "You're late," she said. Not annoyed, just tired. "I know," Doyle answered, removing his boots. Something happened. She noticed the empty space on the rack. "Where's your jacket?" "On a kid," he said. Her hands paused mid-cut. "Which kid?" "A girl from the lower dorms." She needed help. He placed a slate on the counter. They were forcing her to eat off the plaza floor. Myra's eyes tightened, the kind of reaction born from someone who knows the system's cold spots too well. And no adult stopped it. No one even looked. Mira set her knife down slowly. "What did you do?" "I stopped them. Got her food. Walked her back." His voice grew quieter. "She looks like she hasn't had a real adult in her life for a while." A long silence followed. Mira leaned against the counter, arms folded. Her expression held something restrained, as if she balanced concern with old pain. "Why her?" she asked finally. Doyle's answer came without hesitation. "Because if I walked away, I'd think about her all night." Mira breathed out, steadying herself. "Is she safe there?" "Dorms keep bodies alive," Doyle said. "Not hearts." She closed her eyes briefly, thinking. When she opened them, her voice softened. "You did the right thing." He stepped closer, and she didn't move away. She rested her palm against his chest. He placed his hand over hers, grounding both of them. Their apartment felt different, like a quiet boundary they didn't talk about had shifted. Mira spoke first. "What's her name?" "Naya." "Then tomorrow," Mira said, taking a slow breath. "We check on her together." Doyle nodded. "Yeah, we will." Outside the wide window, Linares Tier glided above the gas giant in silent rotation, unaware of the small promise forming inside one apartment. Doyle woke before the alarm, staring at the ceiling while the faint hum of the upper-tier air vents brushed against the walls. His body felt restless, not from lack of sleep, but from the weight of yesterday still sitting in his chest. Mira shifted beside him, half asleep, her curls loose across the pillow. She opened one eye. "You're up early," she said, voice low, still rough from sleep. "Couldn't shut my head off," Doyle replied, sitting up. The cool floor met his feet. He pulled on dark work trousers and a clean compression shirt. I keep thinking about that kid. Mira pushed herself into a seated position, pulling the blanket around her legs. Then we go before your shift. Early mornings quieter. Less eyes. He looked at her, surprised by how certain she sounded. You sure? Yesterday you saw something I've been trying not to see for years, she said. She tied her hair back, fingers moving with practiced precision. We can't pretend kids like her don't fall through the cracks. They ate a quick breakfast, steamed root slices, and warm seeded bread. Mira poured Frohlenseed coffee into 2 metal cups. Doyle watched her for a moment. Yesterday's caution was still there, but something new had replaced the distance between them. She handed him a cup. Let's go. They left the apartment and stepped into the corridor. The early shift rush hadn't started yet. Only a few residents walked past, moving with tired steps. The lift carried them down toward the dorm levels, its walls reflecting their silhouettes under cool white lights. When they reached the hallway leading to the dorm entrance, the air felt colder. Children's voices echoed from inside. Sharp, quick, restless. Doyle remembered the bruise on Naya's arm. His jaw tightened. Mira glanced at him. You okay? I just want her safe, he said. A staff attendant opened the dorm door when Doyle knocked. The attendant looked tired, eyes puffy, uniform slightly wrinkled. Can I help you? Mira stepped forward. We came to check on a girl. Naya. The attendant hesitated. She's supposed to be getting ready for class. We won't take long, Mira said. After a brief pause, the attendant nodded and stepped aside. The hallway inside was narrow. Bunk rooms open on both sides. A group of kids passed by, glancing at Doyle and Mira with subdued curiosity. Naya appeared at the end of the hall, clutching Doyle's oversized jacket around her small frame. Her hair was brushed badly, strands sticking out, but someone had tried. Her thin legs stuck out beneath her school wrap, and she wore the same scuffed shoes as yesterday. The moment she saw them, her steps froze. She didn't run. She didn't smile. She just stared, with confusion, with a bit of fear, and something like cautious relief. Doyle crouched to meet her eye level. Morning. Naya's voice was barely above a whisper. You came back. Of course we did, he said. Mira knelt beside him. Did you sleep all right? She asked, keeping her tone gentle, letting the girl decide how much she wanted to reveal. Naya shrugged. I had a dream the bed fell. I woke up and the room was loud. She looked down, but your jacket was warm. Mira reached to fix a strand of hair near Naya's cheek. She moved slowly, giving the child enough time to pull away if she wanted. Naya didn't. We brought you something, Mira said. She opened her bag and pulled out a small hair tie woven with silver thread. For your hair, if you want it. Naya touched the tie with careful fingertips. It's pretty. It's practical, Mira said. Keeps it out of your face so you can see where you're running. A faint smile appeared on Naya's lips and vanished just as quickly. Doyle stood and adjusted his jacket on her shoulders. You hungry? We thought we'd take you to the food tier again. Naya glanced at the dorm attendant at the end of the hall. Did I do something wrong? No, Doyle said. We just want to spend a little time with you. That all right? Naya nodded, small and firm. Mira offered her hand. Naya hesitated, then wrapped her fingers around Myra's. It was a light grip, uncertain at first, then a bit tighter. They walked through the hallway together. Some staff watched them. A few kids whispered. Mira squeezed Naya's hand once, grounding her. Outside, the morning light made Naya squint. She stayed close to Doyle's side, the jacket trailing behind her. What do you usually eat in the morning? Mira asked. Naya thought for a moment. If there's enough, they give us warm grain mash. If there isn't, just dry cereal. She paused. It doesn't taste like anything. Then let's fix that, Mira said. They reached the food tier. Vendors were still setting up. Doyle picked a stall with a low counter and warm steam rising from metal pots. 2 meat bowls and a spice bread, he told the vendor. He added after a brief pause, make it 3. Naya stepped onto the footbar below the counter to see over the edge. She watched the vendor prepare the bowls, eyes focused on the thick meat strips simmering in dark broth, steam fogging the glass barrier. When they sat at a corner table, Doyle pushed a bowl toward her. Eat slow so it doesn't burn you. Naya lifted the spoon, blew once, and tasted. Her shoulders relaxed. It's good. Mira cupped her coffee with both hands. You start school at the same time as the other kids? Yes, Naya said, but I leave earlier. They tell us it's to keep the halls less crowded. Doyle frowned. So you don't walk with everyone else? No. Mira exchanged a quick look with Doyle. The rule wasn't surprising, but it bothered her. After they finished eating, Doyle walked Naya to the plaza entrance. Kids streamed toward class. Some stared at her again. She tightened her grip on Myra's hand. Mira leaned down. If someone bothers you, you tell us. Or a teacher. Or anyone you trust. You're not alone. Naya swallowed. What if nothing changes? Doyle placed his hand gently on her back. Then I make sure it does. Naya's breath hitched. She nodded and stepped into the plaza. She turned once, checking if they were still there. Doyle and Mira didn't move until she disappeared through the school doors. On their way back to the lift, Mira exhaled a breath she'd been holding. She's carrying more than a kid her age should. She's tougher than she looks, Doyle said. That doesn't mean she should have to be, Mira answered. They rode the lift upward in silence. When it opened into their residential corridor, Mira stopped him by touching his arm. Doyle. He looked at her. She needs more than morning visits, Mira said. We should think about what we're really doing here. He knew what she meant. He'd been thinking the same thing since yesterday. Then we take the next step, he said. And if the system pushes back, she asked. He didn't hesitate. I won't back down. Mira nodded once. She didn't pull away when Doyle reached for her hand. They walked home together, the day brighter than when they left. Doyle returned from his shift later than planned. His harness straps had left faint red marks on his shoulders, and the metallic smell from the cargo bays clung faintly to his shirt. When he stepped inside the apartment, Mira was sitting at the small dining table with her work tablet open but untouched. A half-finished mug of cooling tea sat beside her hand. She looked up the moment he entered. You're late, she said, though her tone wasn't accusatory, more like she needed to confirm he was all right. Platform cables jammed, Doyle answered, hanging the harness on the wall hook. Took longer than it should have. He paused when he saw her expression. Something happened. Mira tapped the corner of her tablet. School sent me a notice. She slid the screen toward him. Naya was pulled aside today for attendance clarification. He picked up the tablet and read the brief message. They flagged her because she came in with us this morning, he said. They want to know why a dorm child arrived through a residential corridor instead of the lower gate. Doyle set the tablet down. They noticed that, but not the bruises on her arms. Mira pushed her hair back, frustration tightening her jaw. Their system sees movements, not children. Doyle stepped closer. Where is she now? Still at the dorm, Mira said. I checked the hours. She closed her tablet. We should see her. He didn't hesitate. I won't back down. Mira nodded once. She didn't pull away when Doyle reached for her hand. They walked home together, the day brighter than when they left. Doyle returned from his shift later than planned. His harness straps had left faint red marks on his shoulders, and the metallic smell from the cargo bays clung faintly to his shirt. When he stepped inside the apartment, Mira was sitting at the small dining table with her work tablet open but untouched. A half-finished mug of cooling tea sat beside her hand. Today, Doyle nodded. They left the apartment and took the lift down toward the lower tiers. Evening lights had shifted the hallways into softer tones, but the air felt colder. On the dorm floor, a handful of children moved in and out of the common room, carrying trays of basic meals. Meat strips, boiled roots, thin broth. The smell was faint, nothing like the warm, seasoned dishes from the food tier. The attendant at the desk noticed them immediately. You again? She asked, trying to sound polite, but clearly overwhelmed with her shift. She's in the back. She ate already. We just want to check on her, Mira said. The attendant pointed down the hall. They walked to the last room. Doyle knocked lightly on the doorframe. Naya looked up from her bunk, where she'd been sitting with her knees pulled close to her chest. Her white hair was tied with the silver thread band Mira had given her, though it was slipping loose on one side. When she saw them, she straightened, trying to hide how tired she looked. Hi, she whispered. Mira stepped in first. You okay? Naya nodded, but her fingers twisted the hem of her wrap. They asked me questions today, she said. About where I was. They thought I snuck into a level I shouldn't. We walk you in, Doyle said. There's nothing wrong with that. They said I have to use the lower gate, Naya added. Always. Mira sat beside her on the bunk. You didn't do anything wrong. Naya lowered her eyes. They don't like when kids from here walk where the other kids walk. Doyle's hands tightened at his sides. He crouched in front of her, steadying his voice. We're not letting them treat you like your problem. She met his gaze, searching his face as if trying to measure whether he meant it. You really came back again. Mira smiled gently. You might have to get used to that. Naya's throat tightened. She blinked quickly, fighting tears. Doyle changed his posture to lighten the pressure. Did you eat enough? He asked, glancing at the tray on her bunk. Thin broth, small meat portion over boiled root slices. She hesitated. It was okay. You hungry? Mira asked. A little. Then come on. We'll fix that. Naya looked toward the doorway. They won't let me leave now. It's inside ours. Mira turned to Doyle. We can bring food here instead. Yeah, Doyle said. Wait for us. They left the dorm and went down to the small night market at the corner of the lower tier. Vendors were closing soon, but one still had hot grilled meat strips wrapped in warm flatbread. Doyle bought 3, then added a small fruit cup when Mira raised an eyebrow at him. Back in the dorm room, Naya sat with her knees tucked under her again, watching the door. When they returned, her eyes widened at the smell of seasoned meat and warm bread. Doyle set the food in front of her. Eat. She didn't need encouragement. She took a bite, and the tension in her shoulders finally eased. It tastes warm, she said. Mira sat on the edge of the bunk. What happened at school today besides the questions? Naya swallowed hard. Some kids laughed when the guard stopped me. They said I was being checked because I don't belong here. She hesitated. They said you wouldn't come back again. Doyle's jaw clenched, but his voice stayed steady. They were wrong. Mira reached out, brushing a hand along Naya's hairline. And if anyone talks to you like that again, you tell us. Naya nodded, but didn't look convinced. She kept her eyes on the wrap in her hands, eating slower now, as if processing everything too carefully. Doyle watched her, then sat on the floor across from her, legs folded, keeping his presence grounded and calm. You know, he said, I didn't like school much either. Naya blinked in surprise. You didn't? No. He leaned one arm on his knee. Too many rules. Too many people watching. And I was bigger than the other kids. They thought that made me different. Naya frowned lightly. What did you do? He shrugged. Found people who actually cared. Mira smiled faintly. And then he found me. Naya looked between them, absorbing the quiet affection in their exchange. Her breathing steadied again. A knock on the metal door frame interrupted them. The dorm attendant stood there, arms crossed. Visiting hours are supposed to be over, she said, though her voice wasn't strict, just procedural. We're going, Mira replied. The attendant nodded and left. Naya shifted closer to them. Will I see you tomorrow? Doyle stood. Yes, Mira added. We'll be here before school. Naya's fingers tightened around the fruit cup. Okay. Mira leaned down and wrapped her arms around her shoulders. Naya froze briefly, then let herself melt into the embrace, her cheek pressing against Myra's tunic. You're not alone, Mira whispered. Doyle rested his hand on the top of Naya's head. Get some sleep. When they stepped into the hallway, Mira glanced back once more. Naya was still on the bunk, watching them with a look that carried relief and fear at the same time. Walking toward the lift, Mira finally exhaled. She's getting attached. Doyle nodded. So are we. Mira took his hand without looking at him. We need to decide what this is becoming. Doyle squeezed her hand lightly. We already did. They stepped into the lift together, the doors closing them off from the cold corridor behind them. The next morning, Doyle and Mira walked the corridor toward the lift in silence. The early lights cast long shadows across the floor, and the air carried a faint chill from the night cycle. Doyle adjusted the cuff of his shirt as the lift opened. Mira stepped in beside him, her hair tied neatly, a shawl draped over her arm. She looked rested but tense, as if holding a decision she wasn't sure how to speak yet. Before we go down, she said quietly, I talked to a coordinator last night, just to ask what would take to register involvement with a dorm child. Doyle turned. You didn't tell me. I wasn't sure how to bring it up. She met his eyes. I also wanted to see if the system would even let us help her without pushing her into a relocation cycle. The lift doors closed. Doyle's stomach tightened. What did they say? Mira exhaled slowly. They said if a child gets attached to outside guardians, the board reviews whether she should be permanently moved to a distant dorm sector to avoid dependency complications. Her tone hardened, meaning they punish her for wanting connection. The lift hummed downward. Doyle rubbed the back of his neck. So if we help her too much, they move her. They said it's not guaranteed, Mira added. It depends on her file. I checked. Her file is thin. Very thin. Doyle's pulse picked up. We won't let them take her. Mira nodded once, firm. Then we're doing this carefully. When the lift opened to the lower level, the hallway was already busy. Staff moved with stack pads of breakfast trays. Children lined up near the dining room door. Doyle spotted Naya immediately. She stood near the wall, holding her bowl with both hands, her shoulders curved inward. A smear of steam fogged her face. A few kids glanced at her, whispering. She didn't look up. Doyle approached slowly so he wouldn't startle her. Morning. Naya jerked slightly, then straightened when she recognized his voice. You came. Mira moved beside Doyle. Did you eat? She asked. A little, Naya said. They said they needed the table. I ate fast. Doyle saw the half-full bowl and the tightness in her grip. We'll get you something better after class, he said. Naya nodded, but her eyes flicked toward the dorm attendant behind them. They get upset if I don't follow the routine. Mira crouched to meet her gaze. We're not asking you to skip anything. We'll just walk you in. Then we'll see you after your lessons. Naya relaxed a fraction. Okay. They walked her toward the school level. The corridors brightened, the flooring shifting from dorm-grade panels to clean stone. As they approached the plaza, Naya slowed. More students streamed in, their voices louder, their uniforms neat. Mira walked slightly ahead, creating a natural barrier. Doyle stayed close behind, making sure no one crowded her. At the main entrance, Naya tugged lightly at Myra's sleeve. If they ask about you, what should I say? Mira brushed a loose strand of white hair from her cheek. Say we're friends. Naya blinked. Are we? Yes, Mira said simply. Doyle stepped forward and fixed the hair tie at the back of her head. We'll be here after school. Same place as yesterday. Naya nodded, gripping the strap of her small school bag. She hesitated for a second, long enough for a few kids to stare, long enough for her chest to tighten, then forced herself to step inside the school hall. Doyle watched until she disappeared behind a wave of uniforms. Mira pulled in a steady breath. We need to talk to someone. About adoption? Doyle asked. Not yet, Mira said. First, we need to know if anyone here is actually responsible for her. They left the school level and headed toward the district administration wing. The office building had a polished metal facade that reflected the flow of pedestrians. Inside, reception desks lined the wall, each staffed by clerks with identical tablets. A clerk approached. Can I assist you? Mira stepped forward. We're trying to check the guardianship records for a child assigned to dorm sector 3. Name Naya. The clerk typed the name quickly. File number found. She's classified as unassigned. No family ID. No emergency contact. No known relatives. Doyle felt something sink inside him. Who signs off on her welfare? The clerk pointed at the tablet again. Primary responsibility falls on dorm administration and educational supervisors. Has anyone actually checked on her? Doyle asked. I'm not authorized to comment on internal performance reviews. Mira leaned slightly forward. We're not asking you to break protocol. We're asking who we need to speak to about getting more involved. The clerk hesitated. If you're trying to establish mentoring or care involvement, you must fill a preliminary review form. But be advised, involvement from external adults can trigger relocation evaluation. Mira stiffened, meaning they might move her away because we care. The clerk lowered her voice. Some children adapt better without outside bonds. That is the board stance. Doyle's hands curled into fists, but he stayed controlled. Give us the form. The clerk sent it to their slates. Outside the administration building, Mira stopped on steps. She inhaled sharply, trying to steady herself. They'll move her if this isn't handled right. Then we handle it right, Doyle said. She looked at him carefully. This won't be simple. Nothing worth doing is, he replied. They spent the rest of the morning reviewing the form in a quiet seating alcove overlooking the plaza. The form asked about stability, financial readiness, living space, and tension. There was a section about emotional suitability. Mira frowned at it. This system pretends to protect kids, but it just hides them, she said. Doyle skimmed the questions. We can do this. He tapped the lines asking about daily involvement, safety readiness, and commitment. Mira watched him write each answer with steady confidence. She added her own notes, short, factual, clear. After, they walked toward the school again. The lunch bell echoed through the plaza. Kids poured out in a rush. Doyle scanned the flow until he spotted Naya standing alone against a pillar, holding her small lunch container. She brightened when she saw them, subtle at first, then unmistakable. Mira waved. We're here. Naya hurried over, white hair bouncing unevenly. They said someone came earlier asking about me, she said quietly. A staff person. They wanted to know who I spend mornings with. Doyle crouched. What did you tell them? I said you're my friends, she said, gripping her container tightly. They didn't like that answer. Mira exchanged a look with Doyle. Did they say anything else to you? They asked if you walked me to school yesterday. I said yes. Then they said you shouldn't do that. She hesitated. They said kids let me get confused easily. Doyle felt irritation rise, but kept his tone steady. You didn't do anything wrong. Naya lowered her voice. Are you going to stop coming? No, Mira said instantly. Naya's shoulders loosened. Okay. Doyle motioned for her to walk with them toward a quieter corner of the plaza where the noise dropped. We talked to the administration today, he said. Naya's breathing quickened. Did I cause trouble? No, Mira said softly. You didn't. We're just figuring out what we can do. Naya's eyes shifted between the two of them. Why? Doyle answered without hesitation. Because you matter. Naya swallowed, her throat moving visibly. No one ever said that before. Mira brushed Naya's knuckles gently. Then it's about time someone did. A group of kids passed by, glancing at them with curious expressions. Naya stiffened and edged closer to Mira. Will we still see each other after school? She asked. Every day, Doyle said. Naya nodded, holding on to the promise like it was something solid. When the next bell rang, signaling the end of lunch, she walked a few steps toward the entrance, then stopped and looked back. Thank you for not leaving, she said, barely audible. Mira smiled softly. We're not going anywhere. Naya disappeared inside. Doyle released a slow exhale. Mira stepped beside him, resting her hand lightly against his arm. She's trusting us, Mira said. Doyle looked toward the school doors. Then we have to earn it. Doyle and Mira waited outside the school entrance as the final tone echoed through the plaza. Students spilled out in groups, their voices sharp and energetic after a long day. Naya appeared last, slipping out behind a cluster of older kids who didn't notice her at all. She hugged her small bag against her chest and scanned the crowd until she found them. Her steps quickened. You came. Of course, Doyle said. Mira crouched to fix the loose hair tie at the back of Naya's head. Rough day. Naya nodded once. They asked again about why leave with you. She shifted her weight. They said it isn't allowed unless you're registered. Myra's jaw tightened. Did they raise their voices? No. They used a soft voice. Naya frowned. The one that sounds like they're being nice, but they're not. Doyle exchanged a glance with Mira. We're going to talk to them soon, he said. Naya blinked. Will they be angry? They can't be angry about someone caring, Mira answered. Naya didn't look convinced, but she followed them as they walked toward the transport tunnel. The closer they got to the upper rings, the more the crowds changed. More adults, cleaner uniforms, more polished shoes. Naya stayed close to Myra's side and kept her head low. When they reached the residential level, Naya stopped at the threshold. The hallway felt too quiet, too neat. She rubbed her fingers along the inside seam of Doyle's jacket sleeve, feeling the fabric like she needed reassurance. Is it okay if I go in? She asked. Mira knelt in front of her. It's okay. Naya stepped inside slowly. The apartment lights brightened to a soft glow, illuminating the smooth stone floor and the low dining table. Myra's tools and scent modulators were stacked neatly by the wall. Doyle's harness hung on its hook. The place wasn't fancy, but it was warm in a way the dorm wasn't. Naya's eyes moved to the window. The view showed the turquoise gas giants swirling below the ring city. She stared for a long moment, captivated by the constant movement of clouds. "It looks alive," she whispered. "It is," Doyle said, "just not in a way we can touch." Naya walked further inside, hesitating only when she saw the couch. She touched the cushion with 2 fingers, as if unsure whether it would be taken away from her the moment she sat. Mira gestured gently. "You can sit." Naya perched on the edge, careful not to lean back. Her legs dangled above the floor. Mira moved into the kitchen area. "She needs something to eat." "Real food." Doyle nodded and loosened his boots. "I'll prep it." He pulled out a small pack of marinated meat strips and heated them on the flat pan. The sizzle filled the space. Naya watched him, drawn by the sound and smell. Her stomach tightened with quiet hunger. Mira placed a woven blanket beside her. "If you get cold, use it." Naya nodded, but didn't touch it. Her eyes stayed on Doyle's hands. "You cook a lot." "When I'm not dangling off a platform," he said. She tilted her head. "Do you get scared when you're up there?" Doyle paused mid-stir. "Sometimes, but fear keeps me sharp. Makes me check my lines twice." Naya absorbed that, then said softly, "I get scared all the time." Mira sat beside her and rested a hand lightly on Naya's back. "You won't always." Naya leaned slightly, barely a shift, but enough to show she trusted the contact. Doyle plated the food. Warm meat, crisp edges, a side of soft bread Mira had bought from a vendor earlier. He set the dish in front of Naya. "Eat." She took a bite. Her eyes closed for a second as the flavor settled. "It's good." A knock sounded at the door. Naya stiffened. Mira instinctively pulled her closer. Doyle moved quietly to the door and opened it. A woman from building oversight stood there in a pressed uniform. Her ID plate reflected the hallway lights. "Mr. Thorne? We received a flag notification regarding your unit." Doyle kept his posture calm. "About what?" The system registered an unlisted minor entering a residential sector. "We need confirmation she is here for authorized reasons." Mira stepped to the doorway, her expression controlled. "She's here with us." "Is she a relative?" the woman asked. "No," Mira said. The woman tapped her slate. "Then you are required to declare the nature of her visit." Naya shrank behind Mira, gripping the edge of her tunic. "She's here for dinner," Doyle said. "Nothing else. She's safe." The woman didn't lift her gaze from her slate. "Dorm children must remain within their assigned sectors unless escorted by city officials or approved guardians." Mira folded her arms. "Are you implying she's at risk because she's having a meal with people who care about her?" The woman didn't flinch. "I'm stating regulations." Doyle kept his tone grounded. "We submitted a preliminary involvement form this morning. Check your system." The woman paused, scrolling. "I see it. That changes the procedure. But until the review is complete, the child cannot be removed from dorm jurisdiction overnight." Naya's breathing quickened. She stepped closer to Doyle. "I'm sorry," she whispered. He knelt beside her. "You didn't do anything wrong." The woman glanced at the scene, at the child clinging to them, at the warmth of the apartment, at the fear in Naya's posture, and her sternness softened by a fraction. "If you want to support her, follow the review steps. Don't jeopardize her placement." She turned and walked away. The door closed. Naya's hand shook. Mira wrapped her arms around her shoulders, steadying her. "You're not in trouble," she said. Naya swallowed hard. "They want me to leave." "No," Doyle said. "They're just trying to follow protocol. We'll handle it." Naya pressed her forehead against Myra's side. Mira stroked her hair slowly. "Eat your food," she said softly. "You're safe here tonight." Naya looked up. "Can I stay until after dinner?" Myra's voice steadied. "Yes." Doyle sat beside them, close enough for Naya to lean against if she needed. She did, quietly, gently, her shoulder brushing his arm as she took another bite of her meal. Doyle watched her settle, watched Myra's protective grip, and felt the decision cement inside him fully. They weren't stepping back. Not now. Not ever. Dinner stretched longer than any of them expected. Naya ate slowly, savoring the warmth of every bite as if she was afraid the plate might vanish if she moved too quickly. Doyle and Mira stayed close, giving her room but never letting her feel watched. When she finally set the plate down, she wiped her fingers on the cloth Mira handed her. The apartment lights dimmed slightly as the evening cycle activated. Outside the window, the gas giant's soft glow lit the room in pale turquoise. Naya hugged her knees on the couch. "Are they going to come back?" she asked, voice thin. Mira sat beside her, tucking one leg under herself. "Not tonight." Naya rested her chin on her knees. "They don't like when kids from the dorm leave. They say it makes things complicated." She hesitated. "Am I complicated?" Doyle crossed the room and crouched in front of her. "No, you're a kid. They just don't know how to treat you like one." Naya blinked at him slowly. "Then how are you supposed to treat a kid?" "Like someone who matters," he said. Mira gently nudged Naya's shoulder with her own. "Like someone who deserves a home, even if it's just for dinner." Naya's eyes shimmered for a moment before she looked away. A heavier silence settled. Doyle sensed the weight in the room. The mix of fear, confusion, and that small hope she kept fighting to contain. He stood and walked to the kitchen counter, returning with a cup of warm fruit tea. "Drink this," he said. "It'll help you settle." Naya wrapped both hands around the cup. The warmth traveled up her arms, steadying her breathing. She took a small sip. Mira watched her carefully. "Do they check your room at night?" "Sometimes," Naya answered. "Not always. Only when someone complains." She paused. "Last week a girl said I snored, and they made me sleep on the lower mat." Doyle's jaw tightened. "Do you?" he asked, gentler than his expression suggested. Naya shook her head. "No, she just didn't want me near her." Mira exhaled, a quiet sound of frustration she didn't bother hiding. "That's not how children should be treated." Naya shifted again, unconsciously leaning toward Mira. "Do you have kids?" she asked. The question hit the room like a dropped weight. Myra's eyes flickered. Doyle looked down, rubbing the back of his neck. They hadn't expected the question so soon, not phrased that directly. "No," Mira said quietly. Naya nodded as if she already knew. "Most adults with kids don't come to the dorms." Mira swallowed once. "We tried," she added softly, more to acknowledge the truth than to burden Naya with it. Naya looked between them. "Is that why you helped me?" Doyle sat beside her now, keeping his posture open. "We helped you because you were hurting, not because of us." She looked down at the tea again. "Most people don't stay after they help once." Mira reached over and rested a hand lightly on Naya's back. "We're not most people." A faint tremor ran through Naya's shoulders. She leaned into the touch without lifting her head. A soft chime from Doyle's slate broke the silence. He checked it, an automated reminder from his work rotation. He silenced it immediately. Mira stood, adjusting her shawl. "Come," she said. "You should wash up before you go back." Naya froze. "Do I have to go right away?" Mira hesitated only a second, then crouched. "You can stay a little longer, but we need to bring you back before they check." Naya nodded, relief loosening her shoulders. In the bathroom, warm steam fogged the small mirror. Mira helped guide Naya to wash her face and brush out her messy white hair. Naya stared at her reflection for a long moment, almost surprised by how clean she looked. Mira tied the silver thread band again, neater this time. "There," she whispered. Naya touched the tied section gently, like it was something fragile. Back in the living room, Doyle waited with her cleaned lunch container tucked into her school bag. "Ready when you are." Naya walked to the door, but paused at the threshold. "Will they be angry I stayed too long?" "We'll handle it," Doyle said. He held out his hand. After a breath of hesitation, she placed her small palm in his. Mira walked beside them as they crossed the residential corridor toward the lift. As they entered the lower level, the sound changed, denser, louder, filled with the shuffle of too many children in a space too small. Naya's grip tightened. The dorm attendant at the desk looked up as they approached. "You're bringing her back late." Mira kept her tone calm. "She had dinner with us. That's not against any rule." "It's not encouraged either," the attendant muttered, though she didn't push the issue further. She looked at Naya. "Get inside. Quick." Naya stepped into the hallway but turned back toward Doyle and Mira, suddenly unsure. "Are you still coming tomorrow?" "Nothing changes," Doyle said. "We'll be here." Mira knelt quickly and pulled Naya into a hug. "Sleep," she said, And keep the jacket. Naya nodded. Okay. She stepped inside. The door slid shut behind her. Doyle and Mira stood in the quiet corridor for a moment before heading back toward the lift. Mira walked slightly ahead, her steps slower than usual. She didn't want to leave. She shouldn't have to, Doyle said. Mira stopped and turned to him. Then we need to finish the form. All of it. Not just interest. Not just involvement. Her voice steadied, even as her fingers trembled. We need to file for guardianship. Doyle didn't hesitate. Then we do it. Mira exhaled, long and shaky, then nodded once. Tomorrow morning. They walked the last stretch to the lift together. Doyle reached for her hand. She didn't pull away. The morning came with a sharper chill than usual. The residential corridor lights brightened as Doyle and Mira stepped into the hallway, both dressed neatly. Doyle in his dark work trousers and fitted long-sleeve shirt. Mira in a forest green day dress with a thin shawl draped loosely around her arms. Their steps matched in a steady rhythm, not rushed but purposeful. They reached the administration building before the first wave of workers. The waiting area lights hummed softly. A clerk at the front desk looked up with a practiced smile. Guardianship review submission, she asked, noticing the open slate in Doyle's hand. Full application, Mira said. The clerk's expression shifted, surprise, then neutrality. Right. Please proceed to Office 3. Inside the dim, glass-walled room, a senior registrar waited behind a clean metal desk. The registrar was older, hair pulled tight, uniform crisp. She scanned the information Doyle and Mira projected from their slates. You understand, the registrar began, that guardianship is a long process. Dorm children are rarely placed into private homes. Stability must be proven. Doyle leaned forward slightly. We're stable. We're ready, Mira added firmly. The registrar tapped her stylus. Why this child in particular? Mira answered before Doyle could. Because she's alone, and because we're capable of giving her more than a bunk and a rotation schedule. The registrar studied them for a long moment, noticing the steady eye contact, the lack of hesitation. The board will need to review your work hours, living space, and emotional suitability. She glanced at Doyle. Your shift rotations may raise questions. They can shift me to ground-level maintenance if needed, Doyle said. I already checked. The registrar nodded once. Very well. Initial evaluation begins effective today. The child will be observed. Myra's fingers curled slightly. Observed how? Teachers, dorm supervisors, and coordinators will monitor her behavior and interactions. It's standard protocol. Doyle felt irritation stir, but held it down. We're still allowed to see her. Yes, the registrar said, but interference with observation will be noted. So keep visits natural. Mira gave a short control nod. We can do that. The registrar sent the submission confirmation to their slates. Expect a decision within 2 to 3 cycles. They left the office, steps heavier but committed. When they reached the school plaza, students were already gathering. Naya stood near the outer wall, holding her bag close. She looked tired, dark circles under her golden eyes, shoulders slightly hunched. When she spotted them, her posture straightened with a jolt of relief. You're early, she said, almost breathless. Mira smiled. We had errands nearby. Naya stepped closer, lowering her voice. They talked to me again this morning. A woman came to the dorm and asked if I feel safe, and if I'm comfortable around you. Doyle's jaw clenched. What did you say? That I want to see you. Her small fingers gripped the strap of her bag. She looked unhappy with that answer. Mira crouched to her height. You don't need to change what you feel to make them comfortable. Naya's lips trembled before she steadied them. Are you going to stop coming? No, Doyle said. We submitted the paperwork. We want to take care of you. Naya's breath caught. Her eyes went wide, almost disbelieving. You what? Mira reached out and gently brushed a loose strand of white hair behind her ear. We want you with us, Naya. For real. For a moment, Naya didn't move. Then her fingers lifted to her mouth as if she was trying to hold back the avalanche of emotion that rushed through her. But they said people don't keep kids like me. Doyle knelt, steady and close. They're wrong. Naya tried to speak, but the words tangled in her throat. She stepped forward and pressed her forehead lightly against his shoulder. Her breath hitched once. Mira placed a gentle hand on her back. After a long moment, Naya pulled away, wiping her eyes with the sleeve of Myra's shawl as if afraid to be seen crying. "Do I go with you now?" she whispered, hopeful but unsure. "Not yet," Mira said softly. "There's a process, a few steps, but we're here, every day." Naya nodded fast, holding onto the reassurance like something solid. The school bell rang. Kids streamed inside. Naya took a step toward the entrance, then stopped and turned back. "Will they take me away because of this?" she asked quietly. Doyle rested a hand on her small shoulder. "No one is taking you anywhere without going through us." The promise settled in her like a steady weight. "Okay," she said, voice trembling but determined. She slipped into the school hall. Mira exhaled slowly. "They're going to watch her. And us. We'll handle it," Doyle said. They spent the next hours completing additional documentation, contact verifications, background checks, living space approvals. Every form made their intent more concrete. By midday, Mira insisted they walk near the school to be present without hovering. Doyle agreed. They stayed in the plaza, sitting on a bench near the garden rail. When the lunch bell rang, Naya exited the building more cautiously than usual. She scanned the plaza as if expecting someone to confront her. Then she saw Doyle and Mira, and her shoulders unknotted instantly. She hurried over, clutching her lunch pack. "They watched who I sat with," she said softly. "They wrote things on a tablet." Her voice dropped. "I don't want to get in trouble." "You won't," Doyle said. "Let's sit." They took a quiet corner near the wall. Naya opened her lunch, thin meat slices and dry bread. Mira shook her head lightly. "That's barely a meal." Naya shrugged in a small, defeated way. "It's normal." Doyle pushed his own food container toward her. "Take half." Naya hesitated. "They'll say I'm spoiled." Mira gave her a firm look. "You're fed. There's a difference." Naya accepted the food and ate in small, measured bites. Every time a coordinator passed with a tablet, she stiffened, fingers tightening around the bread. After lunch, Doyle walked her to the entrance again. Naya stopped at the threshold. "If they say something bad about me, will it ruin everything?" Mira knelt and cupped her face gently. "Nothing they say can change what we're doing." Naya's eyes softened, a quiet relief settling behind them. "I'll try to be good." "You already are," Doyle said. The bell rang. Naya slipped inside again. Mira stood, brushing dust off her dress. "She's holding on to us so tightly. The fear's still there." "She'll learn she doesn't need it," Doyle said. "We just have to keep showing up." Mira took his hand. "We will." They walked away from the school doors, unaware of the thin sensor strip above the entrance blinking to confirm that Naya's new guardians had been present twice today, and that the system was taking note. The decision came earlier than either of them expected. The next morning, just as Doyle finished fastening the last clip on his harness for work, a sharp chime echoed from both his slate and Myra's. The same notification flashed across both screens. Preliminary Guardianship Review. Mandatory meeting today. Location, Census Hall, Mid-Ring. Time, 1400 hours. Mira looked up from her slate. Her shawl slipped off one shoulder, forgotten. "They're moving fast." Doyle unbuckled the harness without thinking. "I'm not going in halfway through a shift. I'll call it off." "You're sure?" "They want it today. We show up today." She nodded and grabbed her coat. "We're going." They took the lift down to the dorm before heading to the census hall. The hallway was loud during morning check-ins. Children lined up with their bags while staff hurried around with tablets. Naya stood near the back of the line, clutching her lunch pack. When she saw them, her eyes widened. She pushed through the line and ran the last few steps, stopping suddenly just before reaching Doyle, uncertain if running into his arms was too much. Doyle crouched anyway. "We got a notice," he said. "There's a meeting about us later today." Naya blinked. "About me?" "Yes," Mira said, smoothing a wrinkle in Naya's wrap. "It might be important." Fear tightened Naya's face. Her hands pulled at the hem of her clothes. "Are they going to move me?" Doyle shook his head. "We're going to the meeting, and you're finishing your school day like normal." Naya's breath trembled. "What if they say no?" Mira knelt on her other side. "If they say no, we try again." And again, and again, Naya looked between them. You won't stop. Never, Doyle said. The dorm attendant called out, line up. Naya flinched. Mira touched her shoulder. Go on. We'll be here when class ends. Naya nodded, forcing her steps back toward the line even though her legs shook. Doyle watched her until the crowd swallowed her. Only then did he exhale. Mira squeezed his hand. Whatever happens today, she won't face it alone. They headed to the census hall. The building was tall, cold, and built from smooth stone slabs that gave no warmth. Inside, the hall opened into a wide chamber filled with muted light and long rows of metal benches. A dozen people waited with tablets on their laps. At the far end, a circular platform glowed faintly where formal declarations were made. A coordinator approached. Doyle Thorne and Mira Hale? Yes, Mira answered. You're here for the guardianship review for child Naya? Doyle nodded once. Follow me. They stepped into a smaller meeting chamber. 3 board officials sat behind a curved desk. Their faces were neutral in that practiced, administrative way. Calm, polished, unreadable. A 4th official stood beside a thin display panel that showed Naya's dorm profile. Age, estimated 7 to 8. Status, unassigned medical. Clear behavior. Compliant, the cold simplicity of it made Myra's stomach twist. Thank you for coming, the lead official said. Your involvement with the child has flagged several inquiries. Doyle's voice stayed steady. We submitted the application. Yes, the official continued. We need to determine if your involvement is beneficial or disruptive. Myra's eyes narrowed. Disruptive how? Dorm children sometimes develop inappropriate dependence on unverified adults, the official said. This can complicate development. Doyle leaned forward slightly. Or it can fix the damage caused by neglect. The 2nd official tapped her stylus. We have observed increased emotional response from the child. A coordinator approached. Doyle Thorne and Mira Hale? Yes, Mira answered. You're here for the guardianship review for child Naya? Doyle nodded once. Follow me. They stepped into a smaller meeting chamber. 3 board officials sat behind a curved desk. Their faces were neutral in that practiced administrative way. Calm, polished, unreadable. Clinging, anxiety, heightened attachment. She's been alone her entire life, Mira said. Attachment is normal when someone finally treats her with care. She has also shown reluctance to follow routine instructions, another official added. Her supervisor noted she became distressed when questioned about your involvement. She was scared, Doyle said. The lead official interrupted. We are not disputing her emotional state. We are assessing whether your presence is stabilizing or destabilizing. Mira kept her tone controlled, but her grip on Doyle's hand tightened. We're offering her stability. The officials exchanged brief looks. We will allow the guardianship process to proceed, the lead official finally said, pending one requirement. Mira stiffened. What requirement? You must perform a formal bond mark ritual at the census registry. If the bond is approved and the child consents, guardianship will be granted. Doyle blinked. Today? Yes. Mira steadied her breathing. We agree. The official tapped her slate. Bring the child here after school. The ritual chamber will be prepared. They left the chamber with a mix of adrenaline and disbelief. Outside, Doyle leaned against the cold stone wall, running a hand through his hair. They're actually giving us the chance, he said. It's happening, Mira whispered, pressing her palm to her chest as if feeling her heartbeat rise. Today, when they returned to the school plaza hours later, students were exiting the building in waves. Doyle scanned the crowd until he spotted Naya standing near the wall, twisting the hair tie around her fingers. She looked small, as if she had spent the entire day holding her breath. When she saw them, she hurried forward. Did something bad happen? No, Mira said, crouching. Something big happened. Doyle knelt beside them, hands steady. They want to do a bond mark ceremony today. Naya froze. What does that mean? It means we'll be your guardians, Mira said. Officially. Naya stared at them. Her knees gave slightly, and she caught herself on Doyle's shoulder. Today, if you want it, Doyle said. Nothing happens without you. Her throat tightened. I want it. They walked together to the census hall. Inside the ritual chamber, The air felt heavier. A single pedestal stood in the center, holding a thin silver band that glowed faintly. A registrar waited beside it. "Naya," the registrar said gently, "please step forward." Naya swallowed and approached the pedestal. Her small hand shook. Mira knelt beside her. Doyle stepped to her other side. The registrar lifted the band. "This bond mark records your family connection. Once sealed, it updates the registry permanently." Naya looked up at Doyle. "Will you stay with me after this?" "For the rest of your life, if you let us," he said. Her breath broke, a quiet, shuddering sound. The registrar extended the band. "Naya, do you accept placement under Doyle Thorne and Mira Hale as your guardians?" Naya's voice was barely audible, but clear. "Yes." The band clicked softly around her wrist. A warm glow spread along its surface. 3 names appeared on the hovering registry screen. Thorne Doyle, Hale Mira, Thorne Naya. Naya stared at the new surname for a long moment, emotion shaking through her small body. Then she turned and threw her arms around both of them at once. Awkward, tight, desperate. Mira held her back instantly, tears gathering in her eyes. Doyle wrapped his arms around both of them, pulling them close. "You're ours," he said quietly. "You're mine too," Naya whispered into his chest. That night, they walked into their apartment as a family. Naya stepped inside first, slow and careful, as if the room might vanish. But nothing vanished. The lights warmed. Mira placed fresh bread and grilled meat on the table. Doyle set up a sleeping mat beside their bed until they could get her room ready. Naya touched the edge of the mat. "Is this for me?" "For tonight," Mira said. "Tomorrow we start building your room." Naya crawled under the soft blanket Mira placed for her. "I've never had a room." "You will now," Doyle said, sitting on the floor beside her. Naya blinked slowly, exhaustion finally settling in. "Will you be here when I wake up?" Mira brushed her hair gently. "Every morning." Naya closed her eyes, the faint glow of the bond mark ribbon visible even in the dim light. Her breathing softened. Doyle and Mira stood together, watching her sleep. Her small frame curled under the blanket, her hair spread across the pillow, every part of her finally safe. Mira rested her head against Doyle's shoulder. "It's real. It's real," Doyle said. Outside their window, Lenara's tear drifted silently above the gas giant. Inside, their family was no longer empty, and there were no more question marks left.